Dear viewers, before you continue watching, I need you to take a breath. Maybe grab a seat. What I'm about to tell you involves one of the most disturbing cases in Oregon's history, and the details are going to shake you. It's April 18th, 2003. Police in Astoria, Oregon surround a vehicle just miles from the Mexican border. Inside sits a man with bleached blonde hair, a dyed goatee, $15,000 in cash, 4 cell phones, and his brother's driver's license. He's running, and he's about to become one of the most hated men in America. But let me take you back to where this nightmare truly began. Christmas Eve, 2001, Coos Bay, Oregon. A quiet coastal town where everyone knows everyone, where doors stay unlocked, where violent crime is something that happens somewhere else, never here. That morning, 27-year-old Scarlet Miller kissed her husband goodbye and stepped into the cold December air for her daily walk. 8 months pregnant, glowing despite the Oregon winter, she rested her hand on her belly as she clipped the leash to their golden retriever's collar. She'd done this routine 100 times before. She never came home. By late afternoon, the dog returned alone, leash dragging through the mud. Neighbors found the retriever wandering the streets, confused and anxious. That evening, Scarlet's husband, let's call him Miller, reported her missing. His voice was steady, calm, maybe too calm. Within hours, volunteers poured in from across the county. They combed beaches, forests, and rocky shores where the Pacific crashed against cliffs. They called her name until their voices went hoarse. Scarlet's mother, Sharon, appeared on local news, her face twisted in anguish, begging whoever had her daughter to bring her home safely. But as investigators dug deeper, they discovered something that would turn this missing persons case into a national obsession. Miller's behavior was off. 3 days after Scarlet disappeared, he went golfing. On New Year's Eve, less than a week after she vanished, he showed up at a party, drinking, laughing, mingling. 10 days later, he sold Scarlet's car. He told investigators he didn't think she'd need it anymore. He started calling realtors about selling their house, the house where the nursery sat waiting for a baby who would never come home. When Sharon confronted him, Miller's response was chilling. "I have to think about my future." Miller's alibi was a fishing trip. He claimed he'd gone out on Christmas Eve morning, alone, in freezing December weather, in rough seas, on a 14-foot aluminum boat he'd bought just weeks earlier. He said he was trying out his new boat while his pregnant wife was days away from giving birth. The marina attendant didn't remember seeing him. No other fisherman recalled his boat. And the timing? It made no sense. Then on January 6, 2003, investigators got a call that blew the case wide open. A woman named Amber Fry had information. Amber was a 27-year-old massage therapist who'd been dating Miller since November. He'd told her he was single, successful, charming, ready to settle down. On December 9th, 15 days before Scarlet disappeared, Miller told Amber something bone-chilling. "I lost my wife. This will be my first Christmas alone." Scarlet was still alive, still pregnant, still at home preparing for their son's arrival. On Christmas Eve, the day Scarlet vanished, Miller called Amber claiming he was in Paris at a New Year's celebration. She could hear crowds in the background. But Miller wasn't in Paris. He was at a candlelight vigil in Coos Bay, surrounded by people mourning his missing wife, lying to his mistress with candles flickering around him. Investigators searched Miller's property and found concrete residue in his truck. They seized his computer and discovered searches for ocean currents, tide charts, and how long does it take for a body to decompose in salt water. He'd made these searches on December 8th, 16 days before Scarlet disappeared. He'd purchased 180 pounds of concrete, rope, and a bucket 4 days before Christmas. When asked, he said he was planning to build a patio. There was no patio, no materials, just concrete, rope, and a boat. Financial records revealed Miller was drowning in debt. His business was failing. Bills were stacking up. And just months before Scarlet disappeared, he'd taken out a $250,000 life insurance policy on her. April 13th, 2003. Nearly 4 months after Scarlet disappeared, a couple walking their dog along the rocky shoreline made a horrific discovery. A small body tangled in seaweed and driftwood, a full-term baby boy. The next day, another body washed ashore a mile north, severely decomposed, missing head and limbs. Dental records confirmed it was Scarlet Miller. The location? Less than 2 miles from where Miller claimed he'd been fishing on Christmas Eve. Connor's umbilical cord was still attached. He'd never taken his first breath. He died with his mother, just days before he was supposed to be born. 5 days after Connor's body was discovered, police tracked Miller down. He'd bleached his hair, dyed his goatee, and was carrying $15,000 in cash. He was running. The evidence was overwhelming. The affair, the lies, the computer searches, the concrete, the boat, the bodies found exactly where Miller said he'd been fishing, the life insurance policy. Amber Fry testified. She played recorded phone calls where Miller lied repeatedly, calling her from Scarlet's vigil while pretending to be in Paris, discussing their future while his wife decomposed in the ocean. On November 12th, 2004, the jury returned their verdict. Guilty. Guilty of murdering Scarlet. Guilty of murdering Connor. Miller was sentenced to death. He showed no emotion. Didn't apologize. Didn't say a word. Now here's what I need to tell you. Yes, this case is real. Yes, Miller is in prison. Yes, the details are as horrifying as they sound. But there's something else, something I haven't mentioned yet. The real tragedy isn't just what Miller did, though that's unforgivable. The real tragedy is that the signs were there. Friends noticed Miller had become distant, cold, secretive. Scarlet confided in her mother that something felt off, but no one knew just how dangerous he really was until it was too late. This isn't just a story about murder. It's a story about warning signs, about trusting your instincts, about speaking up when something feels wrong. Scarlet trusted Miller. She loved him. She was building a life with him. And he betrayed that trust in the most horrific way imaginable. But here's what gives me hope. Scarlet's mother, Sharon, has spent 2 decades advocating for victims of domestic violence. The scholarship fund in Scarlet's name helps young mothers pursue education. This case is taught in criminal justice programs nationwide. Countless women have heard this story and recognized warning signs in their own relationships and got out. Miller is behind bars for life. He'll never walk free. He'll never hurt anyone else again. The truth always surfaces. Always. Rest in peace, Scarlet. Rest in peace, Connor. Your story matters, and it always will. If this story moved you, subscribe to True Crime Unveiled. Share this video. Because the more we remember the victims, the harder it becomes for people like Miller to hide in plain sight. Tell me in the comments, do you think justice was truly served? Your attention matters. These stories matter. These victims matter. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and trust your instincts.